Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of the RSS, otherwise known as the Rashid Saleh Show, with me, Rashid Saleh, and my partner in crime, Jason Sim, aka the Kuchingite. You can find him on Facebook as the Kuchingite or JJ Sim or on the other.
Just slip into my DMs.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, so as mentioned, we've already done my career in at a glance, obviously, even though it's an hour talk of my time as an actor and TV director and all that, and also an actor in film. This time around, I thought we'd go talk about my time as in sports and sports broadcasting, because I think for me that's more interesting, because it was if I were to ever choose between sports and acting, I would definitely choose sports. That one, without a doubt.
Sports your true love.
Oh, obviously. I mean, from the start. I mean, I've always been a sporting person.
Obviously as a Sarawakian, we have ambitions to be a real sporting powerhouse. So obviously these questions are personal value to me. But then, how the hell did Joe from Kopitiam get into the sports industry? Can we just start from there?
Well, you make it sound like that. You're like, what is this dumb guy going? No, I grew up in sports. When I was young, I grew up in the UK. So I was exposed to a lot of sports, especially rugby, cricket, hockey, obviously football, because England's a football nation. So, and the level of competition in the UK is a lot higher than it is here, all because of the sheer numbers and also the fact that they really are, they push you, not just for academics. Even when you go to university, if everyone's on the same academic level, they will look at your extracurricular. And if you were captain rugby, captain of something, you excelled in sports, you will probably be ahead in terms of getting into the university because of that extracurricular activity. And a lot of it, I know this for a fact, that I've had some friends who were not, I wouldn't say they weren't bright, they were bright, but they got into,
you know what you want to say.
Well, they went to Cambridge.
Okay. All right.
Because they were in the, my secondary school, we were a rowing school. Yeah. They got into Cambridge because they were in the rowing team.
Okay.
So, I mean, we had this thing where it was funny, because if you either go to Oxford or Cambridge, the ones who went Oxford, you go Oxford because you're good, you go Cambridge because you're dyslexic. But I'm not, that was what was said in those days. But
so there was a real sporting culture there that you grew up with.
Yes. Yeah. So it was very different to here, because it was, absolute competition. So even at prep school, and even more so as a foreigner, that I had to double and triple my effort to get into the team, because you're seen as weak, because I don't know what it was at the time. Maybe it was subtle racism, whatever it was. But whenever you come from an Oriental country, and we literally was an Oriental, even though we're from Borneo. But enough said about that. We were always seen as
inferior,
not good enough.
Wise.
Yeah, inferior. Yeah. But unless it was
chess or something like that.
Well, no, the Russians were really good at chess, so even then you lose to them as well. Unless it was badminton, but badminton obviously at the time. Oh, actually, no, I wasn't good. I enjoyed it, but no, different type of ping pong. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So sports was something that I grew up with, especially and in the UK. You grew up watching football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the Premier League, it was First Division then.
Yeah.
And then and obviously I got to watch a lot of rugby. I used to watch rugby live at Twickenham. I've played for Oxfordshire under-19s for rugby at the age of 17 and 18. Oh, wow. So I was a county player.
How many Asians were on that team?
My brother was played during his age group, and I was the only one in my age group.
Oh.
Good, huh?
Not too bad.
Not just Asian, Malaysian, not just any Malaysian, Sarawakian.
Oh, yeah. So it's fair to say you both are the first Malanaos to ever play.
I'm not sure, but I guess so. I hope so. Yeah.
So how did that morph into like a career in sports?
Well, it was there was one. I got into this interview. I got on an interview through a very good friend of mine. So I used to be in a theatre group called Instant Cafe Theatre. Andrew Lessie, who was one of the founders of Instant Cafe Theatre, it's a satire group, and Paula Malayali were already working with Star Sports at the time. And
so this theatre group was based in...
No, it was based in KL, but
okay.
Andrew had gotten a job already with Star Sports, and Paula as well had gotten...
and at the time
I was still I was still working television.
Okay.
I mean, it's TV as well. I was still working in Malaysian television. I was a morning talk show host for the breakfast show. I was doing learning to direct. I was doing typical freelancing. Yeah, and TV7. But I was freelancing other stuff as well, writing, learning to write, and all that jazz, doing VOs, blah blah blah, commercials. And when this thing came along, I remember getting a phone call from Andrew saying that there's an opportunity to go for this interview because they were opening up ESPN in Malaysia, and I jumped at the chance because who wouldn't want to work for sports and get paid for sports and eat.
And
sleep.
ESPN was the channel at the time.
At the time, yeah, ESPN. Everyone was like and it was wonderful because when I went for the interview, I literally was the only person who wasn't supposed to be qualified to do that kind of job because I came from from the entertainment television, which was unheard of because usually you get.
Was there a journalism background?
Yes, you need a journalism background. I can honestly say I didn't have a journalism background, but I learned very fast. And when I got the job, I learned very, 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 very fast, and it was great because I love the challenges. I love the fact that you get to do all these things, and you should never shy away from these kind of things. But it was hard at the beginning because the first probably 6 months, I had to prove to a lot of people, including our own Malaysian journalists, that I could do the job because they saw me as you say, Joe from Kopitiam. They saw me as this what is this clown, this comedian?
Can you walk through like the audition process? Like how do you get the job?
The interview was I wouldn't say it's simple, but getting a phone call saying you've got the interview, went to KL Hilton Central. It was actually it wasn't in a room. It was actually in.
So the interviews were open to Malaysians at the time.
Yep. So, but you had to call up and get your time slots. Okay. And it wasn't in a room. It was actually outside in the I think it's a waiting area, the lobby. So we sat down. I mean, lobby in KL Hilton Centre is big. Oh. So we were there sitting there with two people. I think the managing editor and who turned out to be my executive producer at the time. She was ex-CNN. Okay. And
she was American.
Yeah, American lady. Oh. So she blah 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 blah. Why do you think you should qualify for the job? Blah blah blah. So I literally had to explain myself. Told them why I love sport. Blah blah blah. And I actually remember telling her, it's like, look, I'm going to be on the breakfast show tomorrow morning. Come and watch on wherever you are. So I guess you must have watched it, and I got the job. No, but.
So how much was it like? Did they ask you whether you know a lot about sports?
Yes. So of course. I mean, obviously, we apart from our paper qualifications, the other one was like, yeah. Do you know anything about? Of course, I mean, I explained I used to do this, and the managing editor, who is Welsh, happened to love rugby as well. Maybe that pushed me to do it. I don't know, but I remember him telling me, "Oh, we don't cover rugby usually." I'm like, "Oh, okay," but
yeah, because we see a lot of TV hosts on, or maybe I shouldn't say the channel, but it doesn't look like
they know what they're doing.
No, they don't really watch the sports at all. But they're good presenters and stuff like that. Did ESPN really put a premium on like how much you know about the sports?
I don't think so. I mean, it was more about how well you presented yourself, because at the end of the day, it's a television gig.
Oh, okay.
Now, here's a little nugget for you guys. Something like, you guys probably love Pola Malaili, right? I mean, it was probably every guy's dream to like.
Every adolescent's dream during people my age.
And she when she presented, she knew what she was talking about, right?
Yeah.
She knew nothing about sports in the beginning, but she was such a great presenter, and she learned very quickly, and she knew what to say, how to say it, and she made things so natural. I mean, it made obviously not just because of her looks, but she was so good at her job that people believed what she did. But she admitted herself at the beginning, it's like she knew nothing much about the sport, but she learned very quickly, and and now she's like, Paula, F1, tennis. I mean, she's known for that. But she's such a good presenter that people didn't realize that beginning that she had no knowledge of it. But if you're a good presenter, you're a good presenter. Nothing's going to stop you. At the same time, when I was doing mine, I mean, I knew my sports, but I had to step up my game in terms of being able to present sports for ESPN, because ESPN is, the channel to be with. I remember I was covering the China Open. Was Hong Kong Open and China Open in 2007 and 2008, badminton. So arrived at the hotel, and this is was so funny. So I arrived at the hotel with my producer, camera person as well, and we went to check in. Here we go. My name and my producer name said, we're here for under ESPN Star Sports. They looked. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we don't have your name. So I'm like, no, check. Yes, it's ESPN. ESPN Star Sports. Everyone knows. We're in China though. ESPN said no. I'm like, and then my producer said, try ask Walt Disney. I was like, huh? So I said, Walt Disney. Oh, yes, Walt Disney. I went, well, we work for Mickey Mouse.
It was already under Disney at the time.
Yeah. So I was like, oh. So I didn't know, but it was like, I work for Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized, like, oh my goodness, yeah, I'd like.
So this was like what?
So
year?
A clown working for another clown, painted.
So like what year was this?
I think 2007, 8, like that. I mean, I was so lucky to cover so many. I mean, I used to cover Chong Wei a lot, Lee Chong Wei and Wang Michu. I was there when Wang Michu won the China Open in 2007, 8. One of those years. It was awesome. I mean, I got to interview Valentino Rossi. For football, I got to interview obviously Sir Bobby Charlton when they came down to Malaysia. I got Sir Alex Ferguson in trouble when we did interview a mass interview when Manchester United came to Malaysia for a tour.
Yeah, can you tell us about that?
Because at the time Owen Hargreaves was nowhere to be seen, so I asked a question about Owen Hargreaves and is he injured, blah blah blah, and he got pretty upset at that question, and that time suddenly all the other
this was before he was signed.
I think it was already signed because he was. It was
because I remember he got injured on the signing, right?
Yeah. And then it was like, why isn't he here? Blah blah blah. I mean, he signed already. I mean, but.
He didn't like it.
Oh, he didn't like it. He thought it was just like, oh, welcome to Malaysia. I once when Michelle Wee, so the golfer. Yeah. I was covering the LPGA. Was I already with yes? I think it was a bit later. I think it was Astro Arena. So I asked her, I was like, so welcome to Malaysia. It's your second time. Blah blah blah. I said, so how's the food? I didn't have anything to ask. I knew I wanted to ask her about a game. I was like, how's the food? She started laughing and said, have you tried our nasi lemak yet? And it's like, it's an LPGA. And everyone's looking at me going, can you not ask, like, you're one of the, at the time already, like, well-known sports journalists, and I'm asking her about her food.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a while as
Michelle Wee. Oh, yeah.
My adolescent self is like happy.
Oh, really? I've got a picture of her, me and her. I was emceeing at the time. And, she's like 10 foot taller than me. I don't mind. I mean, I have no problem with people taller than me. And I was sitting there, there's a picture of her with, I think, her elbow on either around my arm or on my head, and it's looking up. And it was so like cute because she's like so tall. I mean, yeah.
So
Wasn't
from TV to NTV7 and then to ESPN, was there a big culture shock in terms of like work culture? And I mean, this is a Singaporean-based company, but an American company based in Singapore.
Okay,
right?
I mean, there's a massive difference in terms of the work culture. I mean, Singapore. The work culture is great. Luckily, what I said earlier wasn't recorded, so I can't say you don't know what I said to say. It's fated. So, you know, they're very Singapore in terms of work. It's very sterile. You got to do the stuff, and it's great. But one thing I loved about what ESPN did was they let you do your job, irrespective. You know, they made sure that you know you get you get the most of what you do. You don't have to worry about you know where my tickets are. Everything on the admin side is taken care of, and then you just do your job. And that's why I love the aspect of that, because I didn't have to worry about, oh, am I going to have enough money? Everything, you know, your per diems, your, you know, where you travel, this and that and the other. I did, however, had one issue when we used to go and do assignments in KL, and you know you have to drive around. And what they did was you have to, you know, you go to the odometer, right? And see how many kilometers you travel. So you check that in, and you have to write it down. In those days, nothing was on it. We still have to put it down. So then you send it in to get your claims. So I sent it in, and I got an email back, and this was questioned. But finance asked me, Rashid, from here, for example, to Cheras, whatever. It's only this, you know, it's only 4 kilometers. Why did you take 7? And I wrote back and CC'd my executive and said, have you ever driven in Kuala Lumpur? There is no such thing as A to B. There's A, Z, Y, then you get to B, because you have to avoid all traffic, or else if I went to A to B, I'll never get to my assignment. Reply again from my executive, just pay him. And then I went to the finance, you know, waiting to wage war with the finance person, even though they will be improved. And I talk, and then the finance lady was like, found out she was Sarawakian.
Oh, wow.
So found out she found out I was Sarawakian. After that, ever since then, no problem with my finance. It goes to show, you go find Sarawakian anywhere, they take care of you.
So you're mostly in Singapore or KL?
We the first year was mostly in Singapore. Then they were building our studio in Kuala Lumpur. But I never got to see much of the Singapore or the KL studio because I was always traveling. I'll tell you a story. How I covered the first ever. This was Tour de Timor. Timor is another story.
This is a bicycle race.
I will. The mountain bike, 5-day mountain bike race. It's like Tour de France, 5 days, but you're riding mountain bike across mountains.
In East Timor?
In East Timor.
Wow.
So the inaugural tour in 2009. So prior to that, one of my producers called me up and like, you know, I was I in the middle of sleeping at the time, or was like wasn't during the day. I got a call. I'm like, Rashid, are you like, you know, are you ready for your next assignment? Yeah, next assignment. It's like, do you have like we're gonna give you a bulletproof vest? And I said, where am I going? I said, oh, you're gonna go to Iraq. I said, what? And the time was like, obviously it was after the war. I was like, well, oh yeah, but there's some, this we might have to get you now. I started sweating because you know we're gonna have to get to you this. Have you got your jabs done? I was like, what jabs? And it's your passport, blah blah blah. And it went on for about 10 minutes, and then they started sniggering. I said, what's going on? I was like, I got pranked by my own producers. No, you're gonna go to Timor. I went, huh? Where? And yeah, so I went with my producer. That was another adventure. We spent 5 days. And we were very smart because what happened was, because it was the inaugural tour, the riders and everyone slept in tents. So you don't get a hotel because, you know, in Timor, there are not many. It wasn't developed.
Yeah.
So we went to different like towns and all that, and at night you sleep in tents, under the beautiful sky and all that. But I was smart because I'd go to the Timor Telecom building because that was the only place that I could send my news. So we'll do the report there. We did some barter trading with the Timor Telecom staff. Oh. So every place we went, there was always a Timor Telecom office. Oh. So the first thing I do is I'll go and speak to someone there, blah, 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 chat, get some food, get some drink, blah, 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 chat. Hey, by the way, we want to send... No, yeah, okay. So every day, we never had to go and sleep in the,
tents.
In the tents, because we would either be... Or somebody would offer us their place, we sleep in the house, or the organizers at the time, actually became a very good friend of mine, he had like an extra room for me in his where the organizers were staying. I was like, how come they're staying in a room and we're not? But
this was for ESPN?
ESPN 2009.
So you were there for about 3 years, right?
That was later. I mean, this was just for the assignment. So because after that, obviously I was headhunted and got a call to join Astro Arena.
So let's talk about that. You left ESPN after 3 years because you were headhunted by Astro.
Yeah. So I was asked I got a phone call by the late CEO. I mean, he passed away. Matt Hume, was it? Matt. And he asked me whether I wanted to join Astro Arena. In fact, Edlin, my colleague at ESPN, also joined.
So they were just starting up, right?
They were just starting up. So everything, the office was... I remember going to the office for my interview, and everything was still being built and stuff. And I was like, are you guys going to start or what?
They wanted you to be a presenter.
Yeah, a senior presenter there. Yeah. And 11 days after I left ESPN, I started at Astro Arena. And that was the time it was great because I got to be able to fulfill my other objectives of wanting to have rugby to be televised on a channel. And I got to do that a year after pushing for it. Created a program called Rock and Roll alongside a good friend of mine, Afigo, and also that's when Rodney started with us as well. And now they're the experts now for when it comes to Malaysian rugby. But the program helped kickstart not just rugby in the country, but also the sport in general in terms of the support. And I think it was a 5-10 year plan for me to make sure that not only the sport is recognized, but I think it thrived because of the fact that we got it up on air and we educated the public on it, and we covered all the big tournaments and live and all that, so it became viable. And when you have things like that, sponsors come in, and when you have, because they need eyeballs, people need the sport to be seen. When it's seen, then people, you will get companies that will come in and support it, and that's how it is with a lot of sports now. Lots of sports even then.
Was Astro's ambition at the time? Was it regional at the time, or they were just focused on being this local cable channel?
I think initially it was supposed to be a local channel just for Malaysian. I think they also understood the fact that it was sports broadcasting, as I mentioned, sports industry, as I mentioned in the last episode. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of money involved in it if you know how to do it. And I guess from the beginning, the reason they started that was because they knew that money will come in. Now, right now, Astro survives because of sports. Yeah. People who subscribe to the sports channel.
That's the only reason.
That's the only reason why we watch Astro now, right?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we get to watch our Premier League, we get to watch all the other sports right now. If there was no sports in Astro, do you think we'll be watching it? No, I'd go on. Now Unified TV offers sports, and I'm
and Suka apps and things like that.
There's slots now.
So you being an Astro at that time, did they flood it with experienced people, or did it have this startup feel?
No, I don't think it was a startup, but we had a mixture of experienced people and new people. So it was good because everyone learned from each other. The fact that we had been given a lot of leeway in terms of being able to teach the new guys and also learn from. We also learned from the new guys and learned from. There were guys who were like our editors who came from print sports media.
Yeah.
So they were going through their own training, but we had experienced guys who knew how to set up a station and run it. So we were in good hands in the sense. And obviously the wonderful thing was we were also separate from the main HQ. We had our own building, we had our own studios that was built for us. I mean, they came to a point they even had later on, after I left, they even had Astro Arena radio, which is great, because the potential for it to grow even more. And now Astro Arena is like, it's one of the top sports channels in Malaysia, and surpassing even like at the time RTM, and RTM Sports was good, was the sort of, I wouldn't call it the pinnacle, but standard that to follow, because they had a lot of sport obviously from the government.
Did you feel there was a big gap with ESPN?
Oh yeah, I mean, in terms of work.
Is it funding
culture,
as well?
No, I mean sports. Astro Arena was funded well at the beginning, but we knew that we needed to get the. I mean, I think the marketing people knew that they needed to get money into the sport, as with any new company.
Yeah.
But so you can't really compare it to ESPN because ESPN is established.
Yeah.
It's like maybe compete with Sky Sports,
Yeah.
but not with Astro Arena because we were new. But whatever that we learned, especially what I learned from ESPN, I utilized it to the max when I was with Astro Arena.
So how long were you with Astro Arena?
Unfortunately, not that long. I stayed for about a year plus because at the time I also got another email and a phone call from my friend who I met in Timor in 2009 asking me, hey, do you want to work for this special unit for the President of Timor-Leste? I was like, oh.
Wow.
And I was like, that was another chance not to be let go and missed. So I had other stuff going on in my life at the time, but I literally packed my bags, left with 2 suitcases, went to Singapore, stayed with my friend because there was a direct flight from Singapore to Dili, which is the capital of Timor-Leste. Stayed with my friend who was still working with ESPN at the time. So I stayed and I told him that I was going to go to Timor. He was the one who was my producer and cameraman when we went to Timor. And it was literally like a goodbye, but he was laughing. He says, you have a good time,
Yeah.
And then I left.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole episode on Timor itself.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but since it's about sports, right? Then your next involvement was, after coming back, was being president of MMA. was that it?
So
and how long? Like, what was the gap like from?
So
Astro Arena?
2013. I mean, I was in and out of Timor. 2013, I was approached by another old friend, Jason Lowe, who was the CEO of Tune Talk. And
Sarakian as well.
He and at the time YB Khairi Jamaluddin, now Saudara, and who we know because had created wanted to create a TV reality show based on mixed martial arts called MASMMAA, Malaysian Invasion Mixed Martial Arts Tournament reality TV show.
That,
And that started in 2013, and they were looking for a host. So I became, long story short, I became a co-host with Peter Davis, but I was also the scriptwriter for the TV show as well. And it was a lot of fun. And that first year, it goes to show that, whatever sporting abilities, you love sport, even if you don't know it, if you already have a sporting mindset, you will learn it very fast. I mean, I didn't know much about cage sports,
combat sports.
Well, I knew combat sports because I've covered it and watched it. But MMA was
something new
to me.
Yeah.
But as much as and again, coming into a sport where I didn't know anything about them, you would always have your detractors and go, oh, what do you know about this?
Yeah.
But the challenge for me was always like, okay, I don't know about it, but I will learn. And eventually, after the first season, I wouldn't say I was an expert, but I knew what a rear naked choke was, and all the other moves that they had, ground and pound, blah blah. Because you got to see it, and they explained it, and because I had to write about it, and the reality TV show. And
so how did that translate to being actual?
I always ask myself that question as well. So in 2018, I was at the rugby club, minding my own business. It was a Friday night watching this, live. We have live bands at the rugby club because we have a restaurant and bar. It's just, it's like a typical Friday
This is
night.
in Kuching?
No, this is in
KL.
KL,
Okay.
the Cobra Rugby Club.
All right.
So we're minding my own business, 2018, blah, 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 and then I get a phone call saying, by the way, you've been elected as the new president of MASMMAA. I was like, huh? What? Why?
What? So they just put your name up for a
Yeah,
vote
they put my name because they knew that I was already involved with MASMMAA at the time.
Yeah.
And they knew that I knew my sports and all that, and I guess I'm popular in that sense as well, and and I'd like to think that I had was quite respected because I respected all the athletes and the people involved in any sport. I respect them because especially with mixed martial arts, because if you've ever been inside a cage and you're already stuck there with another person and only the other person is supposed to be, it's a scary thing. It's not like rugby, Yeah, we were violent, we do stuff, but you only have that cage and there's the two of you and you've got to beat the crap out of each other and see who wins. And it's not like boxing where you take your time, You must keep going because you only get those 2 or 3 minutes to just keep going. They never allow you to take a break. You know how tiring that is? Very, very tiring. Plus, you got to break his neck. I've seen people who've been kicked in the face. I don't know how many times I've seen people pass out. We've had one case where a fighter was revived. Literally, I'm not from dead, but it's amazing. And the way we did the show, and it was really, really good because it was so professionally done. We had probably one of the best safety medical records in terms of a sport that is like a combat sport, because the guys who for me, safety and medical are two big things. I've learned that from working with in mixed martial arts. Safety and medical are the biggest things because you're actively going out there to imagine you can't get insurance because you're actively trying to beat the hell out of each other. But one thing it taught me was that this kind of sport it was very similar to rugby in the sense that there was a lot of camaraderie, there was a lot of discipline, there was a lot of respect for one another. So when I got elected, what I did was try to have the same values of rugby into MMA. I was very lucky that when under my presidency that we had a Malaysian athlete, Colleen Augustine, who represented Malaysia. She was strawweight. She won the gold at the Asian Championships, the Amateur World Asian Championships, and she won the bronze. She was the first athlete in anywhere, and it was in the back pages of the NST, first athlete to win a bronze medal at the World Championships in Bahrain, which I was there. Very proud moment for us because it was the first time that any Malaysian athlete had won anything. We've gotten close prior to her in silver at the Asian Championships, but she was the first athlete out of all Malaysian athletes to win a gold and also win a bronze medal. It's very hard because you got countries like Kazakhstan, Russia, and you see the Russians, how they're good they are, and the Europeans, the Italians, they're all really, really good. Here's one, and China.
Yeah.
So here's one little girl at a time, one sole Malaysian going through, and they had to fight every day. Yeah, you win, you go on. You win, you go on. Lose, you don't cut weight, but you maintain your weight. It's not like you get a month off and then fight. You're fighting every single day, and she got the bronze. So it's amazing. It's something you cannot fathom unless you're there to see that kind of thing. So yeah, and then COVID hit and all that. It was really hard. What we did as an association was try to help along the gyms. We had even like older gym owners who were older than me, in the mid-50s. We had a town hall at the beginning of COVID, and a lot of them had shut off their gyms, lost business, and wanted to pivot. So what we did was we got everyone to work with each other to help them do their have an online presence, and it helped. And a year later, they were like thankful for being able to given the chance, and also given the sort of, I wouldn't say training, but the help from all the other. So the community really helped out each other. It's a lot of things that people don't hear about and don't see because everyone's so worried about their own stuff, right? But we actively, as an association, went out there to make sure that everyone was mentally okay, because that was the biggest thing that happened to a lot of people, and especially gym owners and not just us, but a lot of other gym owners in the sport, because you that's your business.
Yeah, so obviously you were in charge of a national sports association, like the MMA of Malaysia, which is a crazy thing. I mean, what was it like being a Sarawakian appointed to like a national association, and then like, what was it like running the whole thing? Yeah.
I mean, we're not a big association. I mean, we're one of the smaller associations, but you have to bear in mind it's a national association. It's not like a club
exactly.
or even a state. Not belittling anyone or saying that it's less work, but you're taking care of the whole country. When I was elected, again the same thing that I had to face. Like, who is this?
Yeah.
Who is this?
Who is Joe from
Kopitiam? It wasn't Joe from Kopitiam, but it's like, who is this? Guy who was the presenter on this MMA show suddenly becoming the president of mixed martial arts. There were. I mean, I literally had to face these kind of questionings. I mean, I think I remember what was the headline? The first headline, the first newspaper report that I got was like actor Rashid Saleh becomes president. Just the headline itself was like, oh no, here we go. I had to explain myself. And ironically, I had my first meeting at the rugby club, because I set the meeting at the rugby club, and I was like, what are we having meeting? I said, because you guys don't have a room. Like, you guys don't have, you don't have a home. So we made Cobra a home, and they were impressed, because it's like, just to let them know, like, I am a senior at the rugby club, a sporting club. When Cobra was very well respected then, because we had people who helped with the Malaysia Rugby Union. I mean, we're born administrators, apart from rugby players, but we knew how to run tournaments and all that, and the club and everything else. So naturally, what I did with again, when I became the MASMMAA president, Malaysia Mixed Martial Arts, was to run it, so that we could delegate the stuff, because I'm not not a dictator.
Just to clarify, were they like a lot of state chapters?
So we had KL, Selangor,
Sarawak,
Perak, Sarawak just started, Johor, Penang and all that, Kedah.
So this was the umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, you're the governing body. So when they found out, there was people who were happy with, like, because they had seen me because we did 5 seasons of MASMMAA, which is literally 6 years of mixed martial arts. So I wasn't someone who was unknown to them. So there were people who were like, but what I brought to the table was something different, because I could bring in the media. I could bring in the support if needed. I could bring the publicity and awareness of the sport. So we did, apart from getting, Colleen to become the gold medalist and also the bronze medalist, we are, and I can happily say that I started a very good relationship with the current president of Olympic Council of Malaysia, Tan Sri Norzal Zakaria. Very lovely man, and we brought him over. I worked with a media news outlet 2213, headed by a lovely gentleman called Harish Diol, because he wanted to do a charity fight called Fight for Change. So he teamed
the
up
former
with
host of this show, right?
a former host of the show, yeah.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
yeah. So they did the charity fight, and he invited Tan Sri Noza and also the president of Malaysia. I always forget this. The press president and and a few other people turned up, and it was really, really good. And obviously we did it at Cobra as well, at our main hall. We had a cage there. It was all really beautifully set up. And, all this was brought about because we had the clout in terms of media awareness for the sport. So we had a lot of coverage in the news.
Was there a lot of support for MMA in the federal level?
There was at the beginning because, at the time, obviously, Kyrie was the Minister of Youth and Sport. So we had a lot of support from that end, as well as corporate from Tune Talk. And it did really, really well in terms of bringing awareness of the sport to the fore, because we started having collaboration with One Championship. Yep. And we had our fighters becoming professional fighters and fighting at the One Championship. It was the heydays, I would say, in that time, between 2013 and 2018, the heyday of Malaysia, to the point that IMAF, the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation president, came down in our third year and to have a look at our setup, and was very impressed because he said it was the first ever amateur tournament, televised show that was so organized well, to the point that when we went, they had organized an Asian Open back in 2016, 2017 in Singapore. They used our people to help organize the thing.
Wow.
And it came to a point where we had one or two people, I see 3 or 4 of our Malaysians, who worked at the World Championships under IMAF, and did a really, really good job, and pretty much recognized as the guys who help run the whole thing, the whole event. We have one guy, a very good friend of mine, Prem, who is now he has his masters in events and management, something like that, and he's one of the top guys in terms of when it comes to event directing or director of mixed martial arts. He's one of the top guys. He does matchmaking as well, and he's we've got a young guy who's now part of MASMMAA, rather, Malaysia, Dan Chi. He now organizes his own events. Mm-hmm. And he's learned a lot from being around us and all that, and he's doing well for himself. So there's just a few names. Not to say that now that MMA is a bit more in the background. It's because that I'm not there. But the current president is also Sarawak, so he was my deputy, and now he's the president. So I didn't say I fixed it. I never fixed anything because we had voting. But we've got. We do have East Malaysians still involved in.
How do you see
MASMMAA.
the state of the MMA in Malaysia today, and Sarawak in general?
I think because COVID, affected a lot of sports, even more so with MMA.
Why is it? Because it's lower in importance?
Yes. So in terms of its significance in terms of sport, it's not an Olympic sport. It's not even in SUGMA. And again, especially with people nowadays, modern parents, they don't want to see their children get beaten up. Although rugby, in terms of the participation for younger generation, has increased because rugby has modernized itself. So what rugby has done is for the younger children, they have non-contact rugby, so they have touch rugby and all that. So they've evolved to make rugby fun, It's not necessarily, so you have different versions of the one sport. There has been cases where with MMA, and MMA for us is like, it's a cage sports.
Yeah.
But there are now different varieties where, for example, the Asian Mixed Martial Arts Association, AMA, they want to do it on a mat with no cage, and with uniform and all that.
Yeah.
So whether it's evolved or it's become something different, we don't know, because it's all this experimenting stage at the moment. Because MMA is different, because a lot of sports went from amateur to professional. MMA is the upside down pyramid. It was a pro sport, and now it's trying to be, I wouldn't say legit, but it would want to be more accepted, having the amateur status to it. And it's still a young sport, even though you've had guys who you talk about GSP, Georges St-Pierre and all that, who are the OGs of that. But the sport really is not, if you compare to lots of other sports, it hasn't been there hundreds of years. It's still a relatively young sport, but it's an exciting sport. I would say if MMA is done properly and organized properly, it'll be up there with esports in terms of popularity.
So, like, as a casual like me, who we follow sports, like when it gets popular on TV, like when we see athletes, like Sri Lankan athletes, like, and this is not MMA, but combat sports, like people like Jojo, who was obviously Muay Thai, and then Kilat Boy, who's already boxing. Do you see room for that in Sarawak, to grow the popularity of sport?
I've said this many times and for many years, and not only when I was in ESPN or in Astro Arena, but as a sportsman myself in rugby. When it comes to East Malaysians, in the majority of sports, we've got an abundance of talent. I kid you not. I've seen raw talent who, if you nurture them and train them, will probably be one of the best in the country, if not the best. We've already proven it with water sports, with diving, with swimming. We've had, let's not even talk about Pandalila. Daniel Bego, you go all the way back, Tanya Bugo, you've got the Wilson Sim. Let's not even talk about Watson Yambet, So that we have it. The only thing, Support Biki, even our powerlifter, our Paralympic powerlifter as well. So in every aspect of the sport, I reckon basketball, sure God. Yeah, it may not be tall, but talented, definitely. Rugby, yes. I know a load of boys in Cebu, and Chinese Fuchao boys, really good. But, inevitably the parents will go, you go to work or do.
So what do you think the issue is here? Is just,
I think it's just a matter of education in terms of convincing people that there is a future in it. If for them is, even if you do well, when you do well, you get recognized, and that's also a springboard for other stuff. We have, I'll give an example. Chi Chan, the Olympic, she's an Ollie, OLY, an Olympic athlete. She taekwondo, right? Tall, lovely lady. I mean, one of my favorite sports. When we interviewed her, actually on the RSS several years back. She's so determined. She beyond sports, she's thrived as well, because she's used as whatever she has learned as an Olympian. Jeffrey Ong, another one, who's Olympian. They've benefited from sports in all sorts of ways. I mean, we're looking at our Pocket Rocket. So, he's in line to win probably the Olympics this year. We know that the Keirin event, if they do well, the older they are, the better they become. It's like marathon runners. The older you are, the better you come. So we may have a gold medalist in our hands for this coming Olympics. This is here in Paris, you know. So, but he's already made his name. And people say, only the top 1%. But it's the top 1% in every sport. But you notice that the mid ones who don't, they do well because they've had the discipline to learn through sports to do well in work as well. So it just goes to show that, when you go through a process, if you love the stuff that you're doing in anything, whether it's in work or anything, the guys who do sport and do well tend to do well later in life as well, because they've had the grounding and the discipline to do it. They know what it's like. They know what the challenges are. So when they do it in work, they already have a guide and also something they can learn from, experiences they can.
Obviously, a sports person with a background in media, do you see that there's a lot more that could be done in terms of like media coverage, monetizing the athletes' social media exposure in terms of that, or do you think this is not something that government should be a part of?
It's very important for anything. I mean, we, as you mentioned early on, our state, and we'll say it's a state at the moment, whether it's region or not, our state has the potential to be probably one of the best, if not the best, sporting state in Malaysia, if not in Southeast Asia, because we have naturally, you want to go right down to the nitty-gritty, like, come on, man, we're jungle people.
Yeah.
We're born to strive and do these kind of things. I mean, you have kids who travel 3-4 hours just to get to school.
Yeah.
That's already resilience. That's sport. I mean, that's walking all the way and getting on the boat. That's stamina. I mean,
shout out to Keras, man.
Exactly. and at the end of the day, it's like, you nurture these kids. You pick up whatever sports they love doing. Our people love to fight. We love watching fights. Yeah. I mean, we had the WBC. Stadium's packed. It just goes to show that, but we need to educate. So for the government to be able to assist us in bringing this up, we need to educate. Again, I go back to the same thing when I joined Astro Arena. We need to educate the public and tell them the benefits of the sport, not just from a sporting point of view, but from a business point of view, from how it will benefit everyone in the long run.
As a person who's been in charge of a national association, right? How much is it responsible? The responsibility of the national body, or the ministry, the sports ministry, and the national sports ministry, or the state itself. Is Sarawak doing enough, but they're not getting enough support from the federal, or not doing enough in general, or what was your experience like in terms of the federal dealing with Sarawak's national, their own body,
What? You see, I can't talk so much about Sarawak because it's run differently because it's more Kuching based. Even though they do have chapters in Cebu, Emiri, and all that. I know all the guys there in Sarawak.
Are you talking about MMA?
MMA, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
So I know everyone knows each other because I even know the guys in Sabah.
Yeah.
Sabah and Sarawak, they know I'm biased when it comes to though I was the national president, even the West Malaysians knew that. It's like when it came to Sabah, Sarawak, say, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll take care. And I used to give a lot of preference. I mean, I even traveled to Labuan to be a guest on one of the tournaments. And then I remember the Johor president, who happens to be one of the founders of MMA. It's like he was telling, and he's a Sifu, and he's telling his guys, wow, you got the national president to go all the way to Labuan to watch your tournament. Wow, so good. I said, well, I had to go, blah, blah, blah. I was doing a talk there and just happened to be there. It's in Malaysia. But, any excuse to go back home, of course we'll take it. So, but at the same time, there was a lot of good things that happened. Well, we always tried to stay active. We always tried to, and in my time, I was pretty much mostly stickler for the rules. So anything that needed to be done, and we followed what was given to us by the sports commissioner, which was, if there's any local events, then they should be charged a certain amount. But we made it minimum. Sometimes we said it's okay. We, especially after COVID, it's like you don't need to pay. But foreign events that came in, obviously there is because we were also charged by the sports commission, so we had at the same time charged whoever came in, because that's one way to basically get your own funding. I tried as much as I can, or I could, not to rely on the government. Although the first committee were very lucky because they were supported by the ministry at the time, but it was different when I took over. We struggled, but I didn't let that be our problem, because I felt that I always wanted to make sure that we became self-sufficient. It's hard for any association, even like clubs or state or anything, even more so a national association, because you got so many people with so many opinions.
So just putting your media cap on, right? What did you think of the recent, was it the WBC coverage in Sarawak Stadium? Like an international event right in Sarawak. Did you feel it had the correct publicity, the correct?
Okay. To be fair to TVS, they were, I think, probably shoved not shoved. I think that's too much of rough. They were
chucked in the deep end.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would say that when you have people around you who are experienced, use them. That's my answer, because the only way to learn is to do it, but at the same time, of course, we're going to be critical because we've seen this, we've done this. This is not our first rodeo. We don't do this because we're telling you we're better. We do this because we want you to be better. We want everyone to do well. I don't have when it comes to these kind of things, I don't have a bad bone in me, because I always want people to strive. I always want people to be better, and I always want us not to look like fools.
When it comes to the organizer like WBC, what's the metrics for success? Was it like high ratings, a sold-out stadium? Like, for Sarawak to win this bid, like what does it mean?
I don't know. I mean, it was with boxing, it's very fluid. I don't get involved with the boxing association because they have a number of associations. Even in Malaysia, there's like 2 or 3 boxing associations, whereas MMA, there's only one, us. So there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of politics going on that side. So when we want to get things done, we have a certain standard because we've learned the standard from the world body. So that's how we're going to do it. That's how we're done. There's a professional body like One Championship and UFC, so we know how they're done. But when it comes to our national body, there's only one body. With boxing, it's different because they have agreements with all sorts of people. But having one here, I was glad that we had a WBC here in our own backyard. But to be fair, we could have done a lot more to make it look better. A lot more to make it look better. But at the same time, I think the station was not given enough time, to be fair to them. But the time that they had, they could have done better.
Can you expand on that?
Well, in terms of, they had a few days prior to the actual WBC where they had the amateur, Sabah had their amateur fights. And I thought from a media point of view, especially sports media, because they had it live on Facebook and all that. It could have been a time to train commentators. Whether you make a mistake or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you should have put commentators out there. And, because we need to educate the public.
Yeah.
You may have sports fans and boxing. Oh, it's boxing. But how many boxing fans are there?
Yeah, for the casuals.
For the casual, what is this going on? Who is that? Blah, blah. They need that kind of information. They need the graphics to show it. And that's the time when we learn. Learn through those mistakes. It doesn't matter. Because by the time you get to the WBC on the final day, you've learned something.
Yeah.
But not doing it prior to that, you've missed the opportunity to learn from it. But again, it's not anyone's fault, because if you're not taught that, of course you don't know. Then if you don't know, you think everything's okay. So
we have to train commentators.
You have to
as
train
well.
commentators. You have to train how to do. No, not just the commentators, the graphics people, everything that goes around it. How working along with the organizers, telling them, hang on a minute, you are bound by TV people. We tell you when to come out.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing an event, oh yeah, we'll follow the crowd. When you're following TV media, you follow our timing. Because imagine you want to come out and then minister's not ready.
Yeah.
So boom,
Always
comes
on
up.
Ad break.
Yeah. So you take a break, find out where the minister. I mean, I'm sure things like that happen. So this is that and the other. You got to make. Is he ready? Then boom. Okay, we go on. So a lot of it is having to be able to know these kind of information, to have that experience, or have people in experience to be able to help you move along. It's not about being about, oh, I know better than you. So it's about, let me help you guys do these things. But again, I'm sure it's a learning curve. But to have the first ever, there was a big missed opportunity, because I felt that they should have had, watching it and the camera work. I mean, let's not talk about, because they're not experienced. But not having the commentary, I think, was a massive missed opportunity, because it could have done it so much better. Even if they make a mistake, it's fine. I remember doing my first rugby commentary. People were laughing at me.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I mean, we were joking about and all that, but we did it because it's the only way to do it. Thrown into the deep end, and we did it. Because after that, everything was smooth, because we kept pushing ourselves and doing better. And that's what they need. They need to be in those type of situations where they need to do the commentary. Yeah, you make a mistake. Yeah, you will have your notes everywhere, but you will learn, because you're learning, on the job. No substitute.
I mean, coming from ESPN and Astro Arena.
I did Suzuki Cup for Fox Sports as well. I was the host with Stanley Bernard, who's now the co-owner of KLCT.
Oh.
Yeah.
So coming from that background, do you feel it's because there's a lack of let's say a sports desk in TBS?
I mean, I think they started a sports programming now because of SUGMA. But again, you need experienced people around.
Would you need like a proper sports desk?
Yes, of
You
course.
think so?
We've never had a proper sports desk as long as I remember, since we started the station. Not that I know. I mean, sports is big, and it saddens me sometimes why there was never one in the first place, because as I mentioned, people don't realize it, but we are such a great sporting state, and we need to promote our athletes. I mean, if I were me, if I was given the task to promote, I would have, when we were announced to become and remember this, we took over somebody to do SUGMA. I mean, it wasn't because we were given the thing. You mean
the coming SUGMA?
The coming SUGMA, we did everyone else a favor, okay, which is already really good of us to do.
No, what's this? Like you took over SUGMA as in how?
No, so the minister mentioned that we weren't awarded it. Somebody could. I'm not sure which state couldn't do it. No one wanted to do it, but we.
Oh, you guys in Sarawak, right?
Yes, Sarawak took the
okay.
initiative to take over SUKMA last year.
Yeah.
Now, what I would have done last year when we found out was great. Get the ball rolling. Then start training journalists and finding out which athletes are doing which sports, and then start promoting them. So by the time SUKMA starts, you will have information. You would have promoted your local athlete, a sportsman, and people come to the stadium knowing who they are and supporting them.
Yeah.
Imagine the sportsman,
the crowd support.
how he feels when people know his name, what he does, his mother, where he goes to the toilet, blah blah blah, and all this.
Yeah.
Do you know what does that to give you the semangat to go and do to win?
Yeah.
That is what it's all about. You see, but people don't realize that. He's no good. Why is he no good? Because we don't promote him.
Yeah.
It is all very much part of the psychological aspect of an athlete. The more people know you, the more you put pressure on yourself. Then people know you, you put pressure on you, do well.
I mean, it gives him or her like monetizing options outside the sport or after the sport.
Exactly.
As well. Yeah.
Exactly. And once they're done, imagine you got sports that say, hey, you want to train to become a presenter? You want to be be the expert, a pundit for this thing?
Yeah.
Then you're already creating another layer in the media of sports media, because you've got these guys, and this is what we did at Astro Arena. So you've got past athletes who have become pundits, who have become even presenters, news presenters. They have their own programming. So do you see what I'm trying to say here? Yeah. It's not just there's no money. There's money in it.
Belt of it.
Yeah.
It's a huge industry,
and
sporting industry.
Now you tell me, why is this ESPN so good? There we go. Why is Sky Sports? Look at these pundits. You know, we always laugh at we're watching, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville. These are ex-players.
Yeah.
They created a whole show for them. Ian Wright, Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
We used to have stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now you watch the badminton on Astro Arena and the football. You look at who the pundits are. Ex-footballers, my favorite, Tan Boon Hyung. He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
He does it in Bahasa. He's one of the pundits whenever they have the badminton opens. He's a pundit and he's the funniest guy. But he knows what he's doing, because hey, this guy is a medalist.
Do you think the country in general hasn't done really well in like utilizing their like veterans, whether in terms of like the media stuff or even coaching? Like I remember you've mentioned before about how there's a lot of talented Sarawakian coaches out there, like coaching other countries, and
Yep. I mean, we've had. Let's not even talk about badminton. I mean, we've got a lot of Malaysians who are working abroad, but we don't. For some strange reason, we don't appreciate them. We interviewed squash Ong Beng Hee. He's heading the US squash team, and they're going to be. I mean, they're preparing for probably Olympics. Squash going to be in Olympics.
Yeah.
He's done really, 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 really well. But he used to coach in Malaysia. He wasn't appreciated, but he's helped set it up. And we've watched his career when he started in the US. And he's done really, really well. And the US are now slowly becoming a force in squash. You got to watch out for that. I mean, they've got numbers anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
come on.
Malaysian.
Yeah. I'll give you another example, and something that everyone's going to be shocked, because the Asian, was it the Asian Games recently in China? Was it the Asian Games or I can't remember. Very recent, last year. So the China women's team, rugby. Do you know who was one of the coaches? He's Sarawakian.
Wow.
From Miri.
The head coach of the.
He was. I not think he's the head coach. He's one of the whether he's physical coach or
so coaching China.
Coaching China.
Yeah.
We know him because he played for Cobra for a while.
Wow.
Nick, he's from Miri.
Gosh.
You know, I know because we followed his path as well. And he studied in New Zealand, I think, and then he came over and then he was playing for us for a while, and then he went off, and then he's like, oh, he's going to go and do his masters,
can you
whatever.
give a name so everyone
I
will
can't
be
remember
like-
his Nick. Oh God, I'll pop it.
Okay, we'll put it up on the comments.
I've got his picture
Okay.
with the girls, the China girls, when they won the gold.
Yeah, so I mean,
like,
is it a question of money or just not recognizing like who our people are? I mean, do you have any insight to that?
I don't know. I mean, it's always been the case of, and it's not every sport. There are certain sports that they've done really, really well and kept the brightest and best within the sport. I mean, gymnastics still has the older generation. Swimming also sometimes. A lot of them though are swimming is great because the ex-athletes get to do work outside. So you know, you got a lot of. I got one ex-national swimmer. What's her name? Who trains a friend of mine's son, and that's just a normal person, you know. So they get a lot of outside work as well. Because swimming, there's lots of swimming pools everywhere, right? But there are certain sports, I mean they're really not appreciated. So you find them working abroad, and then suddenly it's like, oh, how come he's got a job? Because he's good. And you've seen that so many times in badminton.
So, what do you think Sarawak should do for the next SMMAA?
I mean, it's too late now. I mean, we're very.
Is it too late?
Well, SMMAA's coming up already. Not to say too late, but I'm sure everything's already in place and all that. I am not qualified to talk about this because I don't know at what stage we are in terms of our preparations. I don't know. I don't follow much because I don't know the information.
I mean, don't they have one eye to the SEA Games next?
We know they've talked about it, but the thing is, I always say, let's see how we do with SMMAA. Usually, everyone has a pat on the back that we've done well, but you must look at the nitty gritty and go, how well did we do in terms of, one obviously from a media side, because that's really important because you're marketing the event. It's not just about doing well, but how well do you market the event, because that's what gets people over to watch. It's tourism dollars.
So what is that, like attendance and viewership and things like that? Yeah.
The more you market and brand the product or anything, it comes with sports as well. The more people will know about it, the more people will come. You want to talk about SEA Games. SEA Games, I covered the SEA Games in Korat in Thailand. It's big. It's big. It's not an easy thing to do.
Logistic wise.
Kuala Lumpur. I mean, even KL in 2017 or whatever. It's a logistical nightmare. But we'll see how we do with SMMAA first, because SMMAA is like much smaller scale, but it's multi-sport and it's in different. The first time we're doing it in different towns and stuff. So, and then there'll be different broadcasters as well. So it's not going to be just TVS. There's going to be RTM as well as probably Astro Arena. So, and they need all the help they can get. Yeah. So on that note, we've come to the end of this episode, and I'm sure I've got a lot more to talk about. But from us, me and Jason, this is it for the RSS. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.